You guys remember this? Well, here it is now, except for pretty much everything. So in today's devlog, let's fix that. If this is your first time here, I am developing a game based on creature collecting and turn-based strategy combat. We are focusing on the battle scene, so this devlog will not be talking about anything overworld related, because that's kinda overrated at the moment. You know what isn't overrated though? Being able to make video games without having to think about stupid coding errors and glitches. Which brings me to today's sponsor, Core. If you don't know what Core is, it is a free game creation platform that you can create your own games with or play other people's games. You can make games with no coding involved at all, or if you are a weirdo like me and like to make life harder, you can use a built-in coding language called Lua. My favorite part about using Core is just how easy it is to set up an online multiplayer game. In addition to all of this stuff, Core just announced a new feature called the $1 million Core Creator Payouts Pilot Program for the best of the best developers. Core is kind of like you took Mario Maker and combined it with a high-end game engine with pre-made high-quality models and a sexy UI. Oh, and did I mention that you can also make money from every game you make? This is honestly a great idea for a game creation platform with no real competition at the moment. No experience is needed to get started with Core, so make sure and click the link in the description to download Core now and help support this channel. Alright, back to Monster Tower. With how attacking currently works, you will select a monster, pick a move, and then select an attack. However, as you can see, most of our attacks don't just hit the center square.
But wait, why are there 9 squares when the battlefield only has 6?
Good catch, but I think ahead of the game. We aren't showing the exact tiles the move will hit, but the squares that will be affected based around the center tile. So of course, we can't have this outdated one tile selector as you won't really remember what squares are actually being affected. So with a few changes to our coding structure, we can now display the highlighted tiles that you will actually hit upon using that move. You've got primary tiles, which will light up brighter, having the full effect of the move, alongside secondary selection tiles, which will be a bit dimmer, applying half the damage of a primary target, and having a % chance to apply any kind of status condition based on your intelligence stat. In the last video, we went over all of the stats, but intelligence and wisdom seemed a little bit too complicated. So now wisdom will just tell you how many moves you can learn, scoring from 2 to 8. And as stated earlier, intelligence will allow you to have a greater chance at secondary status effects being applied, as well as amplifying the secondary damage. Monsters will also snap to the center of the grid while attacking, but in future we would like to make this a nice smooth transition from the tile they are on to the center for a more lively, fluid transition. We had some really strange bugs with MP, but don't worry, just like most things in life, trial and error is the best solution. Looking back at our test scene, you can see that we wanted to add some form of status conditions, so we spent a few days working on adding them in. There we go, now we have status effects working. So certain moves will apply these effects as you can see from the attack info card. I won't be going over all of the status conditions in this devlog as we would like to still keep some things relatively secretive as we develop the game, but expect some movement restriction, damage over time effects, debuffs, and a few other ways to spice up combat. Another thing we can see from our test scene is this little leaf in the middle of the screen. Well, what does the leaf represent? If you haven't guessed already, this is our weather effect. We want weather to have a great impact in battles, so make sure and take advantage of weather whenever you can. Don't worry, moving forward, we will try to add some more particle effects in the battle scene to make the weather more visually prominent, but for now, having this little icon is good enough. Weather will have 3 levels of strength, increasing the effectiveness of elemental attacks under that current weather typing, and adding turn-based hazards on the battlefield at higher levels of weather. The final piece of the puzzle for combat is adding in tile conditions. They aren't seen in the mockup, but it is something that we really want to implement, so that is our next objective to work on. Tile conditions are similar to status conditions, but instead of being applied to a specific creature and having an effect every turn on that specific monster, tile effects will apply a certain effect to whoever is standing on the tile at the end of the turn. Everyone will start the battle with the basic field condition of having their team's backline tiles being restore squares, which will apply the restore effect, giving that monster HP and MP back every turn. But while in the backline, attacks will do less damage to make playing on the offensive much more risky but effective. Moving your monsters around the battlefield will be essential for players looking to increase their competitive edge. Combat is now set up where the game is fully playable against computer AIs and allowing us to finally start bug testing the game. We are still very far away from finished though, as polishing the combat will take a lot of work to get the game visually appealing and engaging. Expect a ton of polishing and additions to the battle system in future devlogs, but before this devlog comes to a close, I have one more really awesome addition to the game to make. While going into the code and changing around some numbers will work for now, we wanted to create a more engaging way of customizing the battle simulator. So without further ado, here is the mock-up of the battle simulator menu. We start off in the first screen where we can select our 4 monsters. In future, I want to create something similar to games like Smash Brothers and Rivals of Aether, but this works for the time being. Then we have a screen to select what level our monsters will be before heading into the final menu where you can pick all of your moves for each of your creatures. Again, this is pretty placeholder, so expect more visual improvements to be made to make things easier to understand. But, I mean, yeah, you can now select all of the moves you want for your creatures. We even restricted the moveset based on the level that the creatures learn the moves at. And we also even made a super easy way to jump into the game by just hitting spacebar. You can fill all of your team's moves randomly to just jump into a match as soon as possible. We still haven't figured out what we want to do for the backgrounds of our scenes, but almost everything we wanted out of combat is now in the game. Make sure to stick around for the next episode coming out on November 12th for some very exciting updates to the overworld of the game. Like the video, subscribe, and click the link in the description below to sign up for Core. It will really help out the channel, so I appreciate everybody that does so. November 12th will be an exciting devlog, so count down the days till then.